Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 166 of Radio 815, the podcast dedicated to examining the works of writer, director, producer J.J. Abrams and his extended Bad Robot universe. I'm Matt Crandall, here with Marcelo Inostroza, as we continue to watch the 2010 J.J. Abrams produced NBC spy sexpionage adventure series Undercovers. Today we are talking about episode 2, entitled Instructions, that was written by J.J. Abrams and Josh Reams, directed by Stephen Williams, who some people may know as a producer from Lost and Watchmen. So he is a guy who is a bad robot dude, and he directed the second episode, Instructions. Marcelo, red wire, black wire, what fucking wire should we be cutting here?
You know what? I'm partial to the classic red wire, but this episode was so much fun in so many ways, like the pilot was. I just love the chemistry in between Sam and Steven. They bicker like a married couple, and the fact that Steven has this whole thing in this episode about not being comfortable with reading directions, so much so that he fucks up a espresso machine at the job, and he fucks up a critical moment when they're on the specific mission for this episode because he didn't fucking read the directions that the agency gave him. So I love that small little quirk of this episode. The one thing that I did find a little strange, the individual that they get entrusted to go save, right, is kidnapped by this warlord because this individual can make a bomb that shrinks or something, but she ends up making a bomb that explodes. Didn't the bad guys want her because she can make bombs that shrink, not bombs that explode? I like maybe I was a little bit lost in translation there, but I was confused by that, because if JJ and his co-writer introduced that thing, like, wouldn't that be more beneficial to killing someone rather than just making a bomb that explodes?
Well, so what I took it to be, and again, who knows, is that she was the number one microprocessor scientist, which means she can make microchips that are smaller and smaller. So what she was able to do was make a bomb that would fit into a cell phone that would be as destructive as a bomb that normally would be 10 times the size and you would have to hide in a van. So the fact that she could put a very powerful bomb into something as small as a cell phone that would still be as destructive as, like, Tyler Durden's van in Fight Club full of explosives, but this would just be in a fucking cell phone. But I gotta say, you know, I like that JJ thought they were going to basically do standalone stories, but in practice, like, I kind of didn't care about the main plot of this. I kept just wanting scenes of Samantha and Steven with their chemistry. I wanted, you know, the Bill Hoyt character interacting with them, and we get some of that. There's a great scene where Hoyt is part of, like, the interrogation, and it really felt like the Ghost Protocol scene where Benji and everybody are in the hotel room in the Burj Khalifa, and they're, like, on their feet doing stuff. But, like, Hoyt is such a weird character that there's a moment where, like, he literally puts his nose up against the guy that they're interrogating and he, like, sniffs him. And I'm like, it's these kind of moments. And every time he talks to Samantha, he's like, "Hi, Mrs. Agent Bloom." Like, he's still so hung up on how much he loves Steven. And so, like, I do think Ben Schwartz is really funny and I like everything he does. Leo is back. So, like, this is the carryover where, you know, their old agent, who he mentions about 10 times that he used to do sex with Steven's wife. And it's a funny runner, but also it's like, okay, is this guy's only bit? And I'm not very familiar with the guy who plays Leo. The actor's name is Carter McIntyre. But, like, the vibes I keep getting from him are like Adam from What About Brian? So I'm like, why didn't they just get that guy? Because, like, they want, like, a handsome guy, but his energy is kind of this, like, frat boy kind of douche energy that Matthew Davis had on What About Brian? And so, like, I don't love the Leo character, but I do think it's funny where there is a part where he meets Sam's sister, Lizzie, and everybody's like, uh-oh, like, he already did sex with Sam. Hopefully he doesn't do sex with Lizzie. But I also want to see more of the kitchen staff because, again, we've got like this cast of characters, the sister, Grunberg's brother still hanging around. And so I want to see a better balance of the cover and the missions going forward, hopefully. Because as I said, we get these terrorists who gun down all these scientists and the people they're there to protect, and they kidnap this one, and there's a double cross where we're told false information, and the person that we think is the big bad isn't the big bad, and the guy that we already had is the big bad. And like that stuff just feels like shit we've already done a million times on other shows and even on Alias, where like when they realize the guy that they already had is the guy that they needed and they almost let him go. Like I'm screaming at the TV like, of course, like we all could see this coming a mile away. So I hope that we can find a way where just the A story spy mission of this fell flat to me. Like I just didn't care. The stakes weren't very high, and even they were just going to blow up like arbitrary, they might as well have just called it arbitrary science convention, because they kept showing like the signs and they were the most generic like signs. And I'm like, okay, like I needed the stakes of that to be like a little higher because we spent a lot of time on that story. And I care about the characters that we follow week to week, but like I couldn't have cared less about this scientist story at all. How are you feeling about that main plot?
Yeah, look, I mean, as I said in the open, I was a little bit confused with the main plot as to why they wanted this specific scientist. But the other thing that I did find really strange is the main victim, the scientist that the bad guys kidnap in this episode keeps talking about her husband, but he's never seen, like he's like we see him in a photo, but he's never seen this episode at all. Like he's continually referenced, because there are many scenes when they cut away from Sam and Steven doing their spy thing, and they go to this lady working on this microchip, and she keeps mentioning, I want to see my husband, I want to see my husband, I want to see my husband, but we never see him. There is a small line at the very end of this episode where Shaw says that that they finally got reunited at the end of the episode, right? But it was very odd to me that they kept mentioning this person and he never popped up. And the other thing that I found really, really annoying and really, really strange with Hoyt this episode was, I know the stuff in the hotel and him sort of smelling that guy worked for you, but I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? To me, it came off as he was trying too hard. Like, seriously? Like you, are you a professional? Or are you a child? What are you doing?
Right. It definitely is try hard, kind of silly shit. But, you know, like I said, the thing that I like about this show is the characters and the levity. And so I'd rather have those moments than like the heavy handed. And I totally agree with you that when they made it, you know, this wife doing something to save her husband, I actually would have liked more of that dynamic, because our whole main show is about a husband and wife spy team. So let's see the, you know, two husband and wife dynamics come together in some sort of interesting way. But again, most of the levity of this mostly comes at Leo's expense, where they keep just making fun of Leo and, you know, his do sex thing. But, you know, there's one time when Steven is exasperated with Leo and he's like, do you even hear yourself talk? And Leo's like, it's one of my favorite sounds. And then later there's a part where he's like, what areas of expertise do I not have? And Steven and Smith are like, humility, modesty, like you're a blowhard and we're annoyed by you. And the best line of the episode was when Leo says to Steven, like, what can I do? And he goes, you can just show up later. Like, can you just fuck off? Like, you can get here later. That would be great. Like, just, I don't want to deal with your shit right now. And so I like that. And I wish that we had a little bit more, you know, Gerald McCraney as Shaw, who shows up to give them their mission. I just love his exasperated old man energy. Like, he's so great when he's just like, this is the thing, and I hate that we have to deal with your restaurant workers and all this bullshit. Like, I just want you guys to be the spies that I need you to be. And we only get like one really good scene with him, and then he kind of disappears. And I guess that's kind of probably going to be his MO. Like, he'll show up in Act 1 to give us a mission, and then he'll fuck off. So he's kind of like the Charlie of Charlie's Angels, where he just does like one specific thing to set the plot in motion. But I like that actor, and I like that character of cranky old guy who's kind of sick of everyone's shit, that I wish there was a way for him to pop up more. And hopefully in future episodes, they will find a way to maybe get him more involved, because the main things that are working is that our series regular cast are all charismatic and charming, and they're doing interesting characters that when we have to spend half the episode with those guest stars who are coming in for the A plot, already it's only episode 2, and I'm like, oh God, I hope we don't do 20 minutes of story without our main characters every week. Like I don't want any more than like 2 minutes of setup and then just give me Sam and Steven doing their thing. If we have to spend so much time setting up every individual story, this is going to get exhausting.
Yeah, I do want to address something that you mentioned with Leo. Leo, to me, because you mentioned that that the actor from What About Brian would have been better for Leo, right? Because he does have like this douchey frat boy energy. Leo, to me, is like he's a very competent individual, but the problem with Leo is that his sense of I am the smartest person in the room, and his sense of there's nobody better than me, I think that is a coping mechanism to show that he's a really heartfelt, deep down, sensitive guy. Now, I have nothing to back that up on. I don't remember the show at all. I don't know if we're going to get any of that, but I do kind of feel that. And I also kind of feel that Steven's sort of discomfort with Leo is sort of unfounded, because we do know that they went to the farm together. They have a past together. But before Leo or before Samantha told Steven that they had a relationship, Steven held Leo in high esteem, I think. Or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, well, he did, because we know that he's like he was at their wedding and he is one of their pals, and he obviously is supposedly good at his job before they get drawn in, because he goes rogue to try and do a mission and doesn't let anybody know. So yeah, I think he does respect him, and then it's just now that this thing has kind of reared its head, that all the things Steven was overlooking about Leo, now it's harder to gloss past those.
The other scene that I was like, just, you know what? I don't know. Like it really bugged me towards the end of this episode, when Sam finally is able to get her hands on the bomb, and she's disarming it. She's sort of playing with the wires in a in a car garage, while our victim of this episode is being taken to the hospital in an ambulance, and Hoyt is in there in the ambulance talking to the scientist to try and get her help to disarm the bomb. And it's really annoying to me that she kept passing out. And I'm like, I know this is supposed to be playing for laughs, and I know I'm supposed to be laughing at this time, but I'm like, this is a moment that, look, I'm not opposed to sense of humor, because I'm not opposed to sense of humor, because I loved Alias. And Alias is all with sense of humor. There's more. Marshall is great. Sloan, he's crazy, but he's funny sometimes. Yeah, I just couldn't vibe with some of the placements when it came to humor in this episode. I'm like, you guys should be playing this moment a little bit more seriously. And I do think that moment in the ambulance with Hoyt saying to, Miss Samantha Bloom, that was dumb too. I was like, I do think that this episode needed a little bit more seriousness in some specific moments. So, I mean, I know I'm alone in this because you said that it just worked for you, but I needed that to be a little bit more serious.
Yeah, well, and I think the reason that I don't want it more serious is because then it is just Alias. And I want them to distinguish this show from the previous Bad Robot Spy stuff. And we're taking that Benji energy and trying to apply it across a wider canvas. And so, like, I like that this show can be frothy, goofy shit sometimes, but I do admit that scene where the scientist kept passing out so she couldn't advise how to stop the bomb was annoying, because never for a second do we think that Samantha is going to blow up, right? We know she is going to be able to stop the bomb, and even if she unplugs the wrong wires, eventually she's going to get the right wire. So dragging it out by having, I keep wanting to say Benji, but by having Bill Hoyt, try and wake this woman up, and she won't because she's passing out in this medical emergency scenario. is a little bit of false stakes because we never really buy that they're actually in danger here. We know that they're going to save the day. So I guess on one hand, since we know that the day is going to be saved, why not make it goofy? But then also, like, just spending so much time on having this woman wake up and then pass out was just kind of annoying because we knew there was going to be no repercussions from this event that actually carried over. And that guy, the guy who plays Leo, like I said, I'm not familiar with that actor. And so far his weasel energy is just kind of rubbing me the wrong way that I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. And looking him up, like, he has basically just done, for the most part, like one-off bit parts in a lot of series. He was on some show I've never heard of a few years before this called American Heiress that apparently did 65 episodes and co-starred Joe Manganiello and Robert Buckley from One Tree Hill, which, like, I've never fucking heard of this. So, like, maybe they saw that show and saw something special in him and that's why they gave him this gig. But he's kind of never been heard from since. And I think, there's just something about the energy he's bringing, for me, feels off.
The other interesting thing about this episode, and like Matt has said and like I've said throughout the course of this discussion, the fact that Steven is too lazy to read the manuals and brush up on current CIA technology, that's funny. That's funny. I will give them that 100%. But the other thing that I found interesting about that is, with Steven being so inept with the way that current spy technology works today, that shows to the audience that Steven has this sense of, like, I'm the best agent in the world and I know everything. By giving Steven something that he can't do, shows the audience that he is not perfect and shows the audience that he still has to go to school for certain things. And I did like seeing this big hulking spy legend be sort of beaten to the punch by first a cappuccino maker and then by not turning on the signal in a bug that he put in a watch early on this episode. And to make matters worse, Shaw rims him out for it, and his wife rims him out for it at the same time. And one of the best lines for me in this episode is when Shaw is watching them sort of go back and forth and bicker like husband and wife, because they are. Shaw goes, I can't stand that when you guys do that. And they go, I'm sorry. So they do the exact thing at the exact moment when he says he hates it, and they do it. I absolutely love their chemistry. JJ casting them with his casting director, that was absolutely a stroke of genius. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this, we are led to believe that Steven left the agency for Samantha, but there's a scene with Leo in this episode where so did you tell Sam why you really left, or have you told her that bullshit story that you've told everyone else? So I do like that in this very insignificant story of the week episode, I do like that JJ and his co-creator have planted something in the show that will eventually come to bite Steven back in the ass, because they wouldn't have mentioned it if they're not going to bring it back up again. I just hope that they mention it before the series ends.
They might have been leaving breadcrumbs for later in the series, but because they only did 13 and they don't do a back 9, I'm not sure if that'll pay off. But I did think that was one of those, like, small interesting moments where, now we know that there are secrets between husband and wife. We knew that there were secrets out there, but knowing that, you were going to leave the agency for her anyway, but there was also some weird shit going on that got you ousted is an interesting hiccup. And as you said, seeing that Steven used to be super agent and now knowing, like, he kind of was believing his own bullshit that he didn't even read these instructions, when the spy game and technology moves so fast that if you're out for 5 years, stuff changes. So reading the instructions and paying attention to fine details is important. And I think that's an interesting character trait that they gave him where, he can't operate the coffee machine and he forgets to activate the tracker.
Do you think that in this very, very limited 13 episode run that we're going through here, do you think that we're going to get some flashbacks to Steven and Leo at the farm and seeing how their relationship developed?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is a show that's going to play in flashbacks. And the only reason I say that is because flashbacks are a Bad Robot staple. But as soon as you have J.J. Abrams' name on a show and you start to do flashbacks, if you don't execute them as well as Lost did, then I think you're setting yourself up for like failure and bad comparisons. So I don't know. And like I said, I watched this when it aired, so I've seen 10 of the 13 or 11 of the 13, but I don't remember anything about it other than liking the leads and liking Ben Schwartz. So I don't remember any of the story beats that we're going to explore. So it will be interesting to see if we have room for flashbacks in this world, or if the mystery of the week, mission of the week, is going to take precedent.
The other thing that I was wondering in this episode, because we did see a quick moment, like you mentioned, between Sam's sister and the douchey Leo in this episode. So I'm wondering, again, this is probably not a good answer, but I'm wondering if Steven and Samantha had that moment where they actually have to tell their sister, "Oh, we're not actually going away on these long trips for business meetings. We do actually work, or we actually work for the CIA, and I'm a secret agent, and we just couldn't lie to you anymore." So do you think that we're going to have enough time to see that moment, or do you think it's something that's always going to be in the air?
Again, that is like a perfect dramatic moment that this series, from the moment it starts, where we know, Sam has a sister who she works with who doesn't know her real past or her real new occupation. We know that would be a ticking time bomb, but that also feels like a season 2 finale reveal, right? Where like the oh shit moment of the season 2 finale will be that Lizzie discovers that they're spies. So I don't know timeline of the show, when they knew it was ending, whether we're going to get those moments or not, because we're literally everything we're going to get is going to be like act 1 of a 5-act story that they would have envisioned for like a recurring multi-season arc. But that is something that we would like to see. And I also think that they would want to save that card. Even if they do it in this first batch, it'll be near the end, because they don't want to have to. What they want is for us to be more invested in these characters before that big moment. Because if they did it in episode 3, we're not that invested. But if we emotionally care, like right now we're invested in Sam and Steven, but Lizzie is kind of a peripheral character that hasn't had a lot of time. But if we spend more time with the sister and see the stress of running the business on her because Sam and Steven are never there, then it becomes more impactful. So I hope they don't rush it, but also that is like a scene that you would imagine that they had on the whiteboard, like Lizzie finds out in big letters, and I just don't know if they ever get to tick that off.
Yeah, listen, I mean, all the points that you brought up is very, very good. That potential scenario is sort of like a season 2 cliffhanger going into season 3. I'm just saying this in hindsight, and I'm saying, I hope that they hit at least some of these beats that they're probably going to hit none of them with my luck.
So that will do it for episode 2 of Undercovers Instructions. Next week, we will be talking about episode 3, Devices. So if you are watching along, again, this show is on Tubi in the US, and JJ wrote episode 2 with Josh Reams. He writes episode 3, and then he doesn't have any more writing credits. So next week, he was involved in the room, and I'm sure he had a lot of hands-on, but next week will be the last, like, JJ was boots on the ground for sure on the episode. So we'll have to see how that plays out. If you guys like the show, please like, follow, subscribe, tell a friend, tell anyone you know about the show. Let them know. Send us comments. If you send us a comment, we'll read it on the show. We can be found on X at JJUniverse815. You can send us an email, or you can go to the YouTube page where Marcelo is taking care of all of the episodes on YouTube. You can leave a comment on any of the audio YouTube stuff, and we'll read the comment here. If you want to get in touch with me, I don't really do much social media anymore. I am logging movies on Letterboxd, letterboxd.com/MDC3000. Marcelo, you are still rocking it on X. That's the best place for people to get in touch with you. How can they do that?
Yeah, if you want to come and talk to me about anything JJ Universe or any movie ever, you can come and talk to me on X. I'm at CreekFanatic88. But I do want to mention just real quickly. By the time this comes out, our channel will probably be up. We are now on Discord, so we have our Discord channel. So if you're a Discord user, I will link it here in the show notes. So you just click on that link and you'll be thrown to our Discord channel where all our back episodes will live. And if you want to talk to me on Discord, I'll be there too, checking in to see if we get any new fans over on Discord. So, yeah.
Perfect. All right. That'll do it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. Until next time, Radio 815 over and out.
Radio 815 is a Balloonhead Productions presentation in association with Killer Newt Productions.